What's up? The name's Trey. I love romance. I always thought love was a main purpose of our lives. Let's get to it. This is the second video in a two-part series about dating and finding love. Today, I'll share 3 specific tips for when you have an attraction to a specific person and how to make sure that it doesn't end prematurely. Breakups are natural and arguably good, but for me, I always felt like it was such a shame when a relationship, situationship ended before it really should have. Like we still had things to learn from each other, or when it's, just a new flame that fizzled out way too soon. I was a little hot from the mobility drills I was doing in the last video. I have this line with me. It has my mic attached to it. I've always had a little affinity for stuffed animals. Don't know why, but he's really cute. So I hope you all are cool with him joining us today. So the first tip, don't be hypocritical. Sounds straightforward, but I think there are some specific gay applications of this. Oppressed people can sometimes act like you can't say nothing to me, and they just wind up being hypocritical. Something I've heard several times from men is they like someone and then they just start creating doubts in their mind. One case is when they have some attraction towards a guy who appears to party a lot. This is typically how that conversation goes. Have you ever partied with him? No. Have you ever had a conversation with him about his partying? No. Has he ever told you that he's taking drugs at these parties? No. Have you ever confirmed with him that this is actually his preferred way to spend his time? No. Are you selling him short and self-sabotaging? Yes. I had this one friend who would actually create huge parties and dance his butt off all night long, but he was sober, completely sober for years. My point is, who they are now may not be who they want to be. In this partying example, just because they're partying while they're single doesn't mean that that's what they'd want to do in a relationship. They may literally just be bored or lonely or looking for romance or some sort of male attention in a club. They may secretly hate this lifestyle and they're only going because their friends drag them there. So I just think having these conversations is important. Outside of parties, Instagram isn't reality. He may seem self-obsessed online, maybe look like a himbo, but to some degree, Instagram and social media is a business and sex sells. What they're choosing to show you on social media may be completely different from what they actually show you in person. The point being, if you don't want your book to be judged by its cover, maybe don't do the same to other guys. The second tip may be a little controversial, but just stick with me. Be willing to get hurt. The truth is that relationships hurt. All relationships hurt from time to time. If you're a person who melts in a puddle when you get hurt, who runs away, who punches back, who resorts to emotional manipulation when you get hurt, I'm sorry, you're just not ready. Relationships hurt because you're 2 different people with 2 different wants. It can hurt when you don't get the thing that you want, and you're not always going to in a relationship. For example, you want to stay in, but he wants to go out with his friends. So he goes, and then you feel a little bit hurt that you didn't get the attention that you wanted. You want to do something fancy, but he wants to save some money. Then you're a little bit upset that you didn't get your way. You want to have sex, but he's not in the mood, so you feel rejected. Not saying these things will hurt you all the time, but it can still feel like discomfort, frustration, or distance from your partner. You need to be ready to expect this in a relationship. It's not all roses and sunshine, and be ready to respond in a healthy way. And to be crystal clear, this does not mean having your guard up the entire time where you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy where you're just anticipating damage. That's not what I'm talking about. But really what I mean on the whole is that if you're emotionally stable, if you love yourself, a little bit of pain from a man you've only known for a few weeks, a few months, isn't going to upend your entire life. This is about vulnerability and confidence, not being avoidant to talk about tough subjects, and not being anxious that you'll overtalk and scare him away. When you're willing to get hurt, you're not afraid, you're simply yourself. Because some guys scare off because they're secretly detecting that you're not really being yourself. So they run off because they're getting an inauthentic experience. Authenticity is key. And for the sake of clarity and nuance, I am a big fan of 1 through 10 scales over black and white thinking. There's a difference between being ready to be hurt at a level 5 versus a level 10. A 5 might be that you tell him your biggest regret and you're worried that he's going to judge you for it, but you know you're going to be okay because that regret doesn't define you. Whereas an 8 is him slashing your tires. And I'm not saying you need to be mentally prepared for him to cheat on you with your father before you get into a relationship. But you should understand that some discomfort is part of the process, and how you handle that discomfort will define your relationship and will determine whether or not he stays. The third point is to align your internal clocks. All of us operate on different wavelengths. Some of us have little baggage and we can just sprint through life with a certain lightness. Others have heavy baggage that just weighs them down. This is part of our clock and the speed at which we operate. Your internal clock may be ready to move from a grinder hookup to a first date after the first meetup. For him, it might take him a week. You may be ready to become exclusive after a month. Maybe for him, it takes a little bit longer. You may be ready to say, I love you after 2 months. For him, it might take 4 months because he has some sort of trauma associated with those terms from the past. And on the flip side, if he wants to move things a little bit quicker than you do, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's clingy or obsessed with you. It just might be that his internal clock is a little bit different from yours. And there may even be cultural differences or life responsibilities that keeps your clock from being perfectly in tune. For example, if he's a doctor and he's extremely busy during the week, he might not be able to process his feelings in the relationship until the weekend. Whereas you, with your job, maybe you have time every single night to reflect and think deeply on how you're feeling. So, this is really for those who scare off easily or say they're too picky. Are you really willing to sacrifice what might be a very good potential partner simply because your internal clocks were slightly off tune at the beginning of a relationship? Or is it simply that you truly have different wavelengths and you're not compatible and it's a deal breaker? I bring this up because I hear it all the time. You want something now in a relationship, and you have a fear that he may never want that. But instead of discussing it, you run. And yes, I do understand the caveat of having some discussions too soon, which, by the way, is on the internal clock. You might be ready for a serious conversation, and they're not. And the trouble is, if you have this serious talk too soon, he might feel like you're needy. If you have it too late, he's going to think you're not serious about him. Before you give up on someone who could be good, please consider the differences in your internal clocks, what compromises you're willing to make, and then lastly, trust your intuition. That's the final thought on the third tip. But I also just want to say that a no is a no. Please remember that. Men are not obligated to tell you why they don't want to proceed further with you, why they lost interest, why they never had interest. But outside of that, fight for what you want, even if it feels uncool. Believe it or not, the cool people are often the loneliest. Which is the segue into one bonus tip, which is specifically for people who are conventionally attractive, who are single, and you're just wondering why. You're like, I'm really good looking. I have all these things that people are supposed to love, and still I'm single. What's going on? As Beyonce says, pretty hurts, and the prettiest people can be the loneliest. My advice to you would be to embrace your imperfections, put them on display. It's going to humanize you. It's going to make people think you care about more things than your appearance. Let your hair get a little long every once in a while. Wear a wrinkled shirt. Exacerbate the quirkiness of your personality in public. If you have a snort when you laugh, do it. Embrace the things you nerd out about. Make a stupid joke. Be vocal about current hardships in your life. Abandon the notion of a perfectly clean image. And to be crystal clear, I am not saying to diminish yourself in order to make others more comfortable. I am saying that you probably have several masks in your closet. There's the mask that likes to wear wrinkled clothes that you only show off to your dog. There's the mask that's a little problematic, but still genuine and lovable that you only show to your family. And then there's the perfectly curated social mask. So just consider what you bring to the table when. I also made a short list of some other conventional pieces of advice that may help you in dating and finding someone. You might even be thinking, where do I even start looking? So 1, get a hobby. 2, develop interest in things beyond yourself. Educate yourself. Be able to make small talk while also having thoughts on major issues. And you'll enjoy the process of going on dates a lot more if you're planning things that you actually like, that you would do anyway. So this could be your hobbies that you love, and you're just asking someone cute to join you. And lastly, as a man, don't be afraid to smile. Things aren't always that serious. That's a lot of information. I want to be able to create some art that allows us to get a little bit more into these feelings, that provides some sort of cathartic release and connection to it emotionally. Stay tuned. I'm going to come up with something magical over the next 4 days. Again, this challenge is to create 2 songs in 4 days, 48 hours each. Till then, what's up? It is Wednesday, nearly 24 hours before the end of the challenge. I was reflecting on the last thing I said about conventionally attractive guys who are struggling to find a partner. Over the weekend, I was at a bar with a bunch of gays and queers. It was a crowded room with bright lights, and there was this good-looking guy who was dead center, just chowing down on a ton of food with no shame when basically no one else around was eating. And it definitely shouldn't be, but that is kind of a ballsy thing to do in a room of gays, assuming he has self-awareness. You know, gays who might be overly concerned with their weight or appearance, or fears of looking like a slob. I don't know him, I'm more of an observer, but it kind of humanized this hot guy who could have otherwise just come off as a stereotype. Some tiny adjustments like that sometimes can be helpful in making you come across as more than just a piece of meat or just some detail. And of course, what I'm saying, like, the humor is not lost in me. So kind of like the mom who does something for her baby, like she takes the baby to the park. No one cares, it goes unnoticed. But when the dad does the same exact thing, he takes the baby to the park, he's applauded. This is the same thing when a normal person eats in public. No one cares. But when a hot gay man eats in public, ooh, wow, what's up with him? Yeah, pretty fucked up how society is sometimes. I didn't make the rules, but I am just pointing it out in case it is something that helps you. Just how you can operate better within the system that exists, even if it's an imperfect system. Right now, I'm playing some of the final music. The music is pretty much done. I've written all the lyrics, but I've recorded nothing. Please keep listening to hear the final sound and to hear my final thoughts about making sure a relationship doesn't end prematurely. What's up? It is moments after the end of the part 1 video, and now I'm filming this one for our second song that I've finished. 2 songs within 4 days. It has pushed my creativity to the limit, but I am here and I am proud. Right now it is Thursday at about 9 o'clock. In the part 1 video, I said the end of the challenge would be at 8:24 p.m. on Thursday. And in the second part, I didn't quite say the time, but we're still within, an hour after that. So I would say we made it. The song we're about to listen to is called Ember. So it's about fire. I was inspired by the conversation about vulnerability, particularly when you are with a new flame and you're a little bit fearful that it might end before it really should. I love this song, so I hope that you will too. All right, let's give it a listen.
Never thought that we would hold onto the toast you gave me back when we were going through the motions. My friends all thought that we would fold into some ghost. Now I'm sipping, got a hold onto my soul. You turned out to be dope from head to toe. You got that smolder when you're doing the most. It's like a roller coaster, jolt me back to boast. My feelings never swing, you know. I could've walked away, but I showed you how to grow. When you unexpectedly disclosed all of your hoes and woes. You trusted me, I wanted you loads, whoa. Now I'm so low, like I'm back in the throes. Saying it'll be in it too deep. tripping deep, thinking we could be Bonnie and Clyde to me. I get these feelings and you feel some doubts and bolts. I'm about to blow, let me say before you go. I don't wanna go where you won't go. I just wanna cross that line with you. I don't wanna die, let's be over. Let us shoot my humor. I'm down to the ground when we look down. I'm done with the thought of getting hurt. I'm strong, warm, is betting that we won't burn out. Let us shoot my humor. We could put the hay in the waste in. We could put the shame in the game in. The other day we were saying it's tainted. Heavy haze can't change, let the flames in. We could blow some breath in and test it. We could blow the wood, put our best in. Other folks suppressed, never patient. We could build our world like the ancients. In a life with all the beauty and the fake shit. They're up in the stakes just to get a paycheck. Don't forget our truth, who lit your December. It's me and me and me, remember. I don't wanna go where you won't go. I just wanna cross that line with you. I don't wanna die, let's be over this. Let us shoot my humor. I'm down to the ground when we look down. I'm done with the thought of getting hurt. I'm strong, warm, is betting that we won't burn out. Let us shoot my humor. I just wanna cross that line with you. Let us shoot my humor. I'm down to the ground when we look down. I'm strong, warm, is betting that we won't burn out. Let us shoot my humor. Cheers, let's give a toast to our new flame. Cheers, let's give a toast to my sexy baby. Cheers to the hope of all the way. Cheers, you gotta grow, takes the day away. I don't wanna go where you won't go. I just wanna cross that line with you. I don't wanna die, let's be over this. Let us shoot my humor. I'm down to the ground when we look down. I'm done with the thought of getting hurt. I'm strong, warm, is betting that we won't burn out. Let us shoot my humor. I just wanna cross that line with you. Let us shoot my humor. I'm down to the ground already. Is betting that we won't burn out. Let us shoot my humor.
Thank you so much for listening. To recap, we're not going to be hypocritical. We're going to be willing to get hurt. We're going to try to align our internal clocks. And if you're struggling with dating in other ways, think of some different ways to showcase your personality or other facets of your personality. Comment below with some of your favorite tips on building a new relationship. Hope that you'll be able to keep any new love or romance that you find. Until next time, this is Cam.